Mr. President. Can you hear me, Mr. President?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, we may now proceed with the final resolutions for CNG adjournment.
Yes, we may do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 430.
There any objection? Hearing none, the proposed resolution is, consideration is in order.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
We will read the title of the measure.
Resolution declaring as read and approved the Journal of the 67th Session of the Senate. Resolved by the Senate that the Journal of the 67th Session, June 1, 2, and 3, 2020, be declared as it is hereby declared, read and approved.
Mr. President, I move that we change the dates from June 1, 2, and 3, 2020 to June 1, 2, and 3, and June 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2020. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 430.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Resolution 430 is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 431.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is in order.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure, Mr. President?
I will read the title of the measure.
Resolution authorizing the production and distribution of 20 printed and 100 digital copies of the Journal and the Record of the Senate for the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines. Resolved by the Senate to authorize, as it hereby authorizes, the production of 20 printed and 100 digital copies of the Journal and the Record of the Senate for the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines and their distribution under the direction of the Secretary of the Senate.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 431. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, proposed Senate Resolution 431 is hereby adopted.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Concurrent Resolution number 11.
Any objection? Hearing none, so considered. Concurrent Resolution number 11, the Secretary will read the title of the resolution.
Concurrent resolution providing for the adjournment of the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines not later than 12 o'clock midnight today, June 3, 2020. Resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring that the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives be authorized, as they are hereby authorized, to declare the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines adjourned sine die by adjourning the sessions of their respective houses not later than 12 o'clock midnight today, June 3, 2020. Resolved further that a committee of 3 members of the Senate be appointed by the Senate President, join a committee of the House of Representatives to inform the President of the Republic that the first regular session of the 18th Congress is about to close and the 2 houses are ready to adjourn unless the President has a message or communication to transmit to them.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we change the date from June 3, 2020 to June 4, 2020. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. The motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution number 11.
Any objection? Hearing none. The Senate Concurrent Resolution number 11 is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in conformity with the Senate Concurrent Resolution we have just adopted, I move that the committee of the Senate as provided therein be composed of your designates, Mr. President. Who would you like to designate?
Senators Binay, Cayetano, and Tolentino to inform the President.
With that, Mr. President, we are now ready to hear the closing statements from our beloved Senate President Vicente Soto III.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. Thank you, my dear colleagues. My esteemed colleagues in the Senate, the hardworking civil servants of the Senate and other government agencies, my fellow citizens. Today, on the part of the Senate, we hold the last plenary of the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines. First, I raise up to God our thanks for the gift of life in these trying times, when the specter of mortality hovers above the world like a cloud and eternity threatens to visit like a thief in the night. It is a time where social interaction is the disruption point, when news may be real or fake, when everyone is a broadcaster in 3 seconds by pressing a send button, and also when fine dining is brought home by motorcycles. You can say that we are going through an episode of turbulence and hope that it will soon be over. Many thanks to our people who honored us with a chance to serve in the legislative department. My heartfelt thanks to my esteemed colleagues, Senator never absent Tolentino during the ECQ, and of course the physically present Senator Ping Lacson, who led Senators Gatchalian, Villanueva, Lapid, Zubiri, De La Rosa, Binay, Pimentel, Angara, Ontiveros, Revilla, and Poe for being physically present here in the session hall despite all the health hazards and risks during the ECQ period. And of course, allow me to convey my appreciation to my colleagues who have been actively participating through the WebEx teleconferencing, and they were never absent. Ralph Recto, Frank Drilon, Pia Cayetano, Bongo, Richard Gordon, Amy Marcos, Manny Pacquiao, Francis Pangilinan, Cynthia Villar. Thank you to all of you. And on a personal note, again, to you, my esteemed colleagues, for a year of trust and confidence to be at the helm of this revered democratic institution. In this regard, I stand with the Senate in the creation of a legislative agenda that is committed to saving lives, maintaining growth in the economy, and for as long as the coronavirus poses a threat to the world, by unifying government policy in anticipation for living in a new world. With the people's interests in mind, your Senate deemed it appropriate to respond to this pandemic within our mandate and in the best and most efficient way possible. Even before the lockdown was over, your Senate conducted a number of hearings, convened for a special session, and resumed in regular sessions. These resulted in, among others, the signing by the President of Republic Act 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, authorizing the President limited powers and only for a period of time to exercise powers necessary to carry out a declared national policy to deal with the national emergency and address the urgent needs of the nation arising from the pandemic. Your Senate received the weekly reports relative to the implementation of the law, and as part of our oversight functions, your senators have submitted a number of reports to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee. by way of improving the implementation of Republic Act 11469, which was diligently headed by Senator Pia Cayetano, our Oversight Committee Chair. On 11th May 2020, the Senate convened into a committee of the whole, where in a series of hearings, your senators met with economic managers, key members of the interagency task force, and other stakeholders. This is to keep up abreast, or to keep us abreast of the current situation and to give our comments and suggestions on how the national government can best respond to the coronavirus pandemic. The whole nation also tuned in as we live streamed these hearings to be informed of the actual state of our country during its battle against COVID-19. Before the lockdown, your Senate worked hard on other legislative measures. It is my duty and also my pride to report on the accomplishments of your Senate in the first regular session of the 18th Congress as follows. 8 bills have been signed into law. 2 bills are pending approval of the President. 1 Senate joint resolution, 10 Senate bills, and 11 bills originating from the lower house, or a total of 21 bills have been passed on third reading. 10 bills have been approved on second reading. 26 bills are pending discussion on second reading. 52 resolutions have been adopted, of which 50 were simple resolutions. 5 concurrent resolutions have been passed. The bills that have been signed into law are the Act postponing the May 2020 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, the Act establishing malasakit centers in all departments of health hospitals in the country, the Act extending availability of the 2019 appropriations to December 31, 2020, the Act appropriating funds for the operation of the government of the Republic of Philippines from January 1 to December 31, 2020, the Act modifying the salary schedule for civilian government personnel and authorizing the grant of additional benefits, the Act increasing excise taxes on alcohol and e-cigarettes, the Act designating the third Sunday of November every year as the National Day of Remembrance for road crash victims, survivors, and their families, and the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. I am grateful for the cooperation of my colleagues in shepherding and shaping the legislative outputs that I have mentioned. On home ground, I would like to commend the Senate Secretary for leading the team of the officers and staff of the Senate Secretariat that has ensured the Senate's continued service to the people. Thank you for the Medical and Dental Bureau, especially to Dr. Tristeta Coquin and Dr. Renato Sison for being on the front line in implementing sound health protocols for our employees. Thank you also to the officers and staff of the Administration and Finance, headed by Deputy Secretary Arnel Banyas, for ensuring that the employees are well taken care of during the height of the pandemic and making certain that the Senate premises is at par with best practices in minimizing COVID-19 infection. I would also like to commend the EDP MIS Bureau for easing us into digital transition. They are the people who we should thank for arranging our meetings, hearings, and sessions via the internet. And to them and all other Senate services, to the OSA, the Sergeant at Arms, and all the other people who have given services to the Senate. Thank you for coming up with our protocols for survival and continued service. In closing, I would like to express, on behalf of the Senate, the nation's appreciation to our frontliners in so many fields of endeavor, from health to sanitation, from social welfare to public transport, from local governments to police personnel. Your nation salutes you. Let me assure the Filipino people that the Senate is here to ensure that government continues to serve the public's interest. But let me also say that as dutiful citizens, the Filipino must likewise contribute to this endeavor. There is no challenge greater than this, to win away from our old and familiar ways and see the old world wither behind us. With the Filipino nation, I am ready to face the challenge of being reborn in a new world with you as new men and women invigorated with the mission of working together for a better and safer future. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay ang Senado. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If you watched us on gallery mode, we were all uploading you. We were all uploading you. Mr. President, congratulations. Mr. President, before we adjourn, may I remind our colleagues that there is a continuing Senate resolution number 15, entitled Resolution Authorizing All Regular, Standing Committees and Special Committees of the Senate to conduct hearings, meetings, and consultations during every recess of the Senate to have continuity in the process of passing pending proposed legislation and to conduct investigations on issues of national interest to aid in crafting relevant legislation. Mr. President, that's a reminder to our colleagues who want to conduct hearings during the break. My colleagues, Mr. President.
That means again, Mr. Majority Leader,
Yes, Mr. President.
doing so, we will have to give again special thanks to the Legislative Department headed by DepSec Belian and all the rest of the legislative.
Yes,
LBMRO.
that's absolutely.
Work overtime. The LBMRO, Mr. President.
Yes,
Yeah, the RMO
yes.
and our staff that are, especially the Secretariat, Mr. President, we thank them from the bottom of our hearts for all the work and sacrifice. Many of us could work only from home, but they're there toiling the midnight oil in the Senate, Mr. President. So thank you so much for all the work, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, Senator Pia would like to also be recognized, Mr. President. Senator Pia.
Yes, I would like to join everyone in thanking the team, the legislative support team that comes in. Because on that note, I also want to remind our secretariat if we can continue to abide by the 3-day notice rule, just so that we can, even though we don't have session and most of us would work from home, pag nagkasabay if you give a 3-day notice, and in fact, if it could be given earlier, then we can try to avoid that our hearings are scheduled on the same date so that we can attend more than we normally would, because it's hard to jump from one to another. So 3-day or even more would be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we move for synergy adjournment, Mr. President, I'd like to also give a special thanks to the chairperson of the Committee on Finance. For this last week, he was working double time and overtime, Mr. President, together with our other colleagues who worked with him. So thank you to our chairperson, Senator Sani Angara. Mr. President, with that, I move that the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines on the part of the Senate be adjourned sine die.
Any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved, and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I hereby declare the first regular session of the 18th Congress in the Philippines on the part of the Senate adjourned sine die.
Mabuhay!